Thomas, and I'm a part of Wellspring Life Center Church in Ashland. And you're here with me, and this is Moments with Mila. And I today get to sit down with my pastor and someone who's just been a great encourager and leader to me. And we get to have a moment with him and hear a little bit about his testimony. And so, everyone, this is Emmett Jones.
Glad to be here.
It's so good to have him here. I feel just blessed to be able to share this man's wisdom and story with everybody because it's been so impactful for me and I know our congregation. And so, Emmett, what I would love to ask you today is, what is a moment that you've had with the Lord recently that you, I don't know, you just said shifted your relationship with Him or your perspective of Him? Because I know you've been in faith for many, many years. You have a strong relationship with Him. And so I'm always interested for people who are just people who have like walked with the Lord in such closeness and wisdom, what's happening in the like kind of the latter half of their relationship that's really significant to them.
I think one of the most impactful things that's happened recently is how the Lord's really been pressing on me the importance of love. You know, recently I did a series on love, and I thought it was going to be like one or two sermons or whatever. But it ended up being several weeks. And actually, I believe it's going to evolve into a book. And he's been talking to me about a book for quite a while. When I got into this series on love, I'm like, I think this is really what I'm going to be focusing on.
Yeah.
Because the emphasis he's making for me is that, you know, you can do all this stuff, but if you don't have love, what do you have? Now, we know that.
Mm-hmm.
But how often are we so busy with our stuff and everything we're doing, you know, and we look at the church in Revelation that was actually rebuked for doing everything right but abandoning their first love.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been praying every day, like, okay, Lord, so help me to know how I can love you more today, not just work for you.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
You see that? It's
Yeah.
really important.
So, because I was going to ask you, you know, sometimes we hear these things, especially when you've been in faith for a long time, or just love in general for the world. It seems like this word that's thrown around, and especially for us in the body of Christ, what has God just really been emphasizing uniquely about love in this season? And so would you say it is like loving Him first? And is there anything else that you would add to that?
Well, it goes back to the commandment to love God, love your neighbor as yourself. So there's actually a threefold love here. You know, so the challenge has been, okay, Lord, how can I love you today? How can I love my neighbor? And how can I love myself? And I think many times we struggle with self-hatred or things we don't like about ourselves, and we struggle with things. And I believe the Lord really wants to get us to a place of peace and love with Him, others, and ourselves. Even more recently, He's been talking to me about husbands love your wife as Christ loves the church. Mm-hmm. And this love thing just keeps like rolling, okay?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so exactly what does that look like?
Yeah.
You know, I understand it, you know, who gave himself up for her. What does that, how does that translate into a marriage today with another human, you know?
So you're married. Your wife, Jeanette, is fabulous. And you guys lead this church together. How long have you two been married?
26 years.
So what has he been showing you about loving Jeanette as he has loved the church, even
Well,
after 26 years?
he's showing me that I've still got a lot to learn. Seriously, you know, it's like, okay, wow, I've got, you know, this is really important.
Yeah.
And I think because of the phase of life that I'm in too, I'm like, okay, I need to be sure I get this right. Okay, so how much time do I have left? You know, I don't want to get to the end of the road, you know, and done all this great stuff for God, but, you know, didn't love Him enough.
Yeah.
You know, or didn't love my wife enough, or my children, my family, my neighbor,
Mm-hmm.
or myself even, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm actually on a mission. I really am on a mission. How to love more.
This is really powerful, and I love that we're talking about this because I don't know if I ever told you this, but when you started to do that sermon series on love, I remember, I think the Friday or Saturday before I came, I actually had a vision. I was actually struggling with loving somebody in my life, and the Lord gave me a vision of a 3-chord strand, and only one chord of that strand was intact. And He told me, He was like, that, Miley, you do a really good job of loving me, but loving yourself and loving your neighbor, like that's what we want to work on this season. And in the next vision, it was the Lord handing me a new cord. And I thought that was really powerful. And one of the things he really unpacked was the command is love your neighbor as yourself. So the issue that you're having with this person isn't really about the person, it's actually you're hard on yourself and you don't love yourself well. And so that's what we have to deal with first. And I thought that was interesting that like a lot of times you try to like say, no, it's not about me, or no, I'm just gonna like push out, I'm just gonna give, I'm gonna serve. And really God's like, no, sometimes I'm gonna take things away and strip things down because I really want you to have a healthy understanding and love for yourself and how I love you. And the minute that that is put into place, all the other maybe little relational things you have with people fall into place because now you are loving yourself the way I loved you, and it makes it easier for you to love your brothers.
You know, one of the things that the Lord's been showing me too, that so many of our problems, individual problems, family problems, really stem from a love-deficient world.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to love people if your tank is empty. I'm sure you've heard that. You know? And I do believe that we have to learn how to receive love from God. You know, just as much as to give. But also I think it's in our receiving our love from God that we have a greater capacity to love our neighbor, greater to love ourselves, and to love our wives and husbands, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it really stems from the God source, the love source himself. And so, anyway, I'm just sort of fascinated with this topic. I love it.
It's so good. We're gonna wrap up, and I'm gonna leave people on the cliffhanger so they can research your book because I want to know when possibly that could be coming out. But when you think about, you're also a counselor and have sat down with many people and had conversations. I think a lot of people don't realize that their tank is actually empty. What are some like warning signs that you can give us that just to make us aware we could just be going, we think we're good, but we're not, and next thing you know we end up crashing. So what are some of those things that you've noticed just to kind of give us a heads up when we're like, okay, our tank is running kind of low, we need to probably stop and take some time with ourselves and with the Lord?
I think one of the things I would say in regards to that, if you find yourself being hard-hearted, where things don't really bother you, where there's a lack of compassion and empathy for other people or you yourself, I think you have to stop and think, where does that coldness come from?
Wow.
And so I think that's could be a big warning sign, when you're this detached kind of coldness, things don't really impact you, and apathetic, don't really care about things. To me, that could be a sign. More love is needed.
That's a big sign. This is resonating too much. Oh man, well it's been so good to talk to you today. Tell us when this book comes out. Where could we go to find it?
I am not sure.
You don't
So I've been toying with the name. Actually, I believe the name of the book is going to be Learning to Love.
Okay.
Yeah. Because it is, I believe, something we have to learn how to do.
Yeah.
We have to learn how to receive from God, how to give God, and so forth.
Love it.
But as soon as I get the details, I'll let you know.
Okay. In the meantime, where can people find you on social media or Facebook? Where would be a good place for them to?
Wellspring Life Church. I'm on Facebook.
Okay.
We have a website, wellspringlifechurch.com, I believe.
Okay, and I know you stream every single Sunday, so if anyone wants
We
to hear
do.
more from this powerful man of God, you can check him out there. So thank you so much for just being with us today, and thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.